All right, Broncos country, let's get it. Looks like we are live, but you guys know the drill by now. We've got to let the stream breathe for just a second here and make sure that everything is nice and stable all across the YouTube platform. Welcome in, Broncos country, to this Denver Broncos Syndicate live stream. I'm your host, Gage Madrid. We're going to go ahead and let a few people start streaming on in here. And while we do that, if you could just do me a big favor and smash the like button on this stream as well as subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. Those are both free and easy ways to show your support. It helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and it helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country, just like you and me. Additionally, if you want to go above and beyond in supporting the channel, please consider becoming a channel member today. It's not mandatory, but if you want some extra perks and incentives in exchange for helping me out and helping the channel grow, the link is in the description below. I am a little bit late to this news. I'm not a morning person. I usually don't wake up until about 10:30, sometimes 11 o'clock in the morning. Today, I slept into about 11:30, so I definitely missed the first initial wave of this news. Apologies for that, Broncos country, but we are getting on it right now. We got Q Blue in the house saying, "Hey, Gage, hope you're doing well." I am doing fantastic, my friend. Hope you are doing well as well. Let's go ahead and get into it here. Without further ado, Broncos country, we talked about the possibility of this happening last night when the Broncos worked out this player, but they are adding him to the team. Veteran wide receiver Elijah Moore, is signing to the Broncos practice squad. Now on his fourth team in 5 seasons, Moore has 209 career catches for 2,274 yards and 9 touchdowns. Elijah Moore was initially a second-round draft pick back in 2021 by the New York Jets. He spent the first 2 seasons of his career with the Jets. Then he spent 2 seasons with the Cleveland Browns. Let's go ahead and bring in his profile here from Pro Football Reference. He's only 25 years old. After spending those previous 2 years with Cleveland, he was with Buffalo this year. Unfortunately, it was never a great fit for him. He never emerged on that offense, and he ended up being cut after the Bills decided to sign Brandon Cooks. This season, he's got 9 catches for 112 yards, no touchdowns. His best season in terms of yards came in 2023 with Cleveland. That was when Joe Flacco was predominantly at the helm. He had 640 receiving yards, and his best season in terms of touchdowns came in 2021, which was his rookie season when he had 5. It just feels like Elijah Moore has never been in the right situation. We know that he's got talent. We know that he can be a good slot receiver and potentially a Z receiver. I imagine the Broncos are bringing him in predominantly to play Z in the event that he even gets on the offense at all. In 2024, Elijah Moore actually had a big game against the Broncos. Everybody remembers Jerry Jeudy going for over 200 yards on Levi Wallace in that game. Well, Elijah Moore actually had over 100 receiving yards in that game as well. I want to say it was like 8 catches, over 100 yards, and I believe he had a touchdown in there. So Elijah Moore, the Broncos have seen in person what this player is capable of. So clearly, they think he can at least be some sort of intriguing option for them, and they're going to give him an opportunity at least on the practice squad. Sorry, let's go ahead and bring this back in here just in case people want to see that. There we go. Q Blue says, quick question. Have you heard any news on whether the Broncos are going to bring in a running back like Zach Moss or Jamal Williams? I haven't heard anything. Since those players are available, I imagine that the Broncos aren't impressed by them. Otherwise, they would have already brought one of them in. Zach Moss, Jamal Williams. I've talked about Damian Martinez before on this channel. I think all of those guys are intriguing options, but clearly Denver doesn't feel overwhelmed by any of those options, or else they would have signed one of them. Maurice says, that's a good signing. We needed help. I think this is more of maybe a long-term move for the Broncos than a short-term move. They're kind of hoping that maybe Elijah Moore can develop on the practice squad for the remainder of this season, and then maybe next season he can find more of an extended role on this offense. I know the Broncos are a little bit frustrated with the current state of their wide receiver room. All the moves that they've been trying to make are indicative of that. They tried to sign Stephon Diggs during free agency. It was between the Patriots and the Broncos for Diggs, and Diggs ultimately decided to sign with New England. They also wanted to trade for Jalen Waddle at the deadline. Miami's asking price was simply too high. They wanted a first, a third, and more. Denver was never going to give that up for Jalen Waddle. So ultimately, the Broncos decide to go in the direction of Elijah Moore, who was recently released. They worked out Treylon Burks a few weeks ago, decided not to sign him. Burks signed with the Commanders and then had that crazy catch against Riley Moss on Sunday Night Football, maybe burning the Broncos a little bit and making them regret not signing Treylon Burks. So they had another opportunity here to add to their receiver room, and they decided to pounce on it. As far as the role that I think Elijah Moore is going to fill on this offense, he's probably going to be more of a Z receiver. So the outside receiver that lines up off the ball, you can put him in motion, you can shift him. There are a bunch of different creative ways that you can line up the Z receiver. He might play in the slot as well. If there's any receiver that this is going to take away snaps from, it's not Pat Bryant, it's actually Troy Franklin. Franklin's been up and down this year, having all kinds of drops and just other issues. So that is probably more indicative that the Broncos are frustrated with Troy Franklin and his kind of stunted progress over these past few weeks. So they're bringing somebody in who profiles similar to Franklin and can do some of the same stuff. C asks, is there any chance that JK can return? Yes, there is. J.K. Dobbins has a very strong chance to return for the playoffs. He's probably not going to be back in the regular season, maybe the regular season finale against the Chargers, but Sean Payton said he does have a chance to return this year, and I believe it's going to be for the playoffs. Shai asked, what do you think about Elijah Moore? I mean, I think it's an intriguing move, judging by the title of this video, but it's kind of a low-risk, potentially high-reward thing. If he doesn't work out, then you can move on from him with pretty much no repercussions. But if he does work out, he can provide another nice weapon for you in the receiving game and maybe take some snaps away from the inconsistent Troy Franklin. Marvin Mims, it's been interesting. His snap count on offense has been diminishing ever since he got back from his injury. He's been still the same return man that we've been seeing from Marvin Mims these past 2 years. He's still that same all-pro return guy, but he hasn't seen that many snaps on offense. And I wonder deep down if the Broncos just aren't satisfied with the production that they're getting out of Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin, and that's why they went out and got Elijah Moore. Scyther asked, do you think they're going to activate him for this game with the Raiders? That's probably a little bit too soon. I would imagine more realistically, he's going to be activated for the next game against Green Bay. So, yeah, I don't know if they're going to bring him up for this game after just being here for a few days. Patriots look so good. Yeah, they do, man. They really do. They're playing some high-end football right now. They're playing complementary football in all three phases: offense, defense, special teams. They made the Giants look silly last night. Denver's obviously hoping that New England can stumble in one of these games. That way they can end up getting the number 1 seed, but New England is looking like a really tough challenge right now. Marco says it's a wasted signing. They needed a running back. Unfortunately, there just aren't a whole lot of running backs out there that the Broncos are satisfied with. They would have probably signed a running back like Zach Moss or Jamal Williams if they thought one of those players could help their offense. Additionally, they would have signed a guy that was already on some other team's practice squad, but there just wasn't really anybody that Denver was interested in. They clearly weren't interested in Cam Akers. Akers just signed from the Vikings practice squad to the Seahawks active roster. That was the only running back that was on a practice squad that I would have really been intrigued by. Devin says, I'm sorry, but Mims isn't it at wide receiver. I mean, he's still got time to develop, and he showed plenty of flashes at wide receiver last year, but quite frankly, the Broncos are just not satisfied with where his development is at right now as a receiver. They love him as a return specialist, but he's just not quite there as a receiver. You see, The Athletic called Bo the worst version of Derek Carr. That's ridiculous. First of all, I think Derek Carr was one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the league during his time. Derek Carr played at a high level for many years there in Vegas. If Bo's ceiling is the best version of Derek Carr, the Broncos can win a lot of football games with that, and they can win playoff games with that, quite frankly. So, quite frankly, if they're comparing Bo Nix to Derek Carr, I don't think that's such a negative comparison, but calling him the worst version of Derek Carr, that's just like, no, let's see. Let's keep fighting to see who's getting that number 1 seed. It's going to be a dogfight pretty much until the end. Do you think Deuce Vaughn will get a chance to see the field if the Broncos aren't going to address running back moving forward? I mean, that's kind of the hope, right? Deuce Vaughn's been on the practice squad for the last several weeks. He's been itching for an opportunity. The fact that he hasn't gotten that opportunity yet is probably indicative that he's not going to, but we'll see, man. I definitely like to see Deuce Vaughn at some point. Do you think the Patriots could go to the Super Bowl? Absolutely. They're well coached. They play complementary football in all 3 phases. They're going to probably see the Broncos at some point in the playoffs. May the best team win there, but I think both the Patriots and the Broncos are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. How often can he play on the practice squad? I'm assuming you're talking about more. So he can be elevated from the practice squad 3 times. After those elevations, he will revert back to the practice squad. After that, if Denver wants to play him, then they're going to have to promote him full-time to the active roster. So you can elevate a guy up to 3 times from the practice squad. RJ Harvey is my guy, but we still need a power back. I agree, Quentin, but unfortunately, there just aren't a lot of options out there that the Denver Broncos like. I feel like they would have already brought in a guy like Zach Moss. We talked about Deontay Foreman as a possibility in yesterday's video. So, yeah, man, it's just slim pickings right now. And the timing of the Dobbins injury was just unfortunate. I feel like they would have made a move at the trade deadline if Dobbins' injury had happened before then. It happened literally right after the deadline, so it kind of left Denver between a rock and a hard place. The year Seattle won the Super Bowl with Wilson, the Seahawks offense hardly ever scored more than 20 points. The defense was so good and carried them to the championship. I mean, that's true, but Russell Wilson was still Russell Wilson. He was still Seattle Russell Wilson. He was playing at a high level. He was making plays. He was helping that defense out. So the people who say that Russell Wilson didn't do anything on that Super Bowl run, I disagree with that. And the people that want to take away from Russell Wilson's Hall of Fame status from what happened in Denver and Pittsburgh and the Giants, I also think that's ridiculous. Purely on what he did in Seattle alone, Russell Wilson is a Hall of Famer. I can't believe that there are people out there making me defend Russell Wilson, man. Do you think the Broncos are Super Bowl contenders? Yes, I do. I really do. I don't think that there is a better team in the AFC than the Broncos right now. Patriots are close, but I think if the Broncos hosted the Patriots for the AFC Championship game here in Denver, the Broncos would find a way to win that game. I think that Denver is a more experienced team. They've already been to the playoffs. This Patriots squad hasn't been to the playoffs yet. There's nobody left on that team from the Tom Brady dynasty days. It's a completely new team. It's a young team. Sure, Vrabel's got playoff experience, but the actual Patriots team doesn't. The fact that Denver played in a playoff game last year is going to be huge. And by the time we see the Patriots, if we see them in the playoffs, we will have played a couple of more playoff games by that point. And I think Denver will be battle-tested and ready to take on that caliber of an opponent. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and start winding this stream down here. Let me know in the comment section below and in the chat below, how do you feel about this Elijah Moore move? Do you think that it's a good move for this team, or do you think that the Denver Broncos should have made that move at another position, such as running back? Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear from you, as always. Be sure to smash that like button as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it. Those are both free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and it helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. Joseph says, bring back Philip Lindsay. Unfortunately, that ship has sailed. Phil's retired. He's doing media now. He's one of us, baby. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.